again with all of you to just introduce a very new speaker, and this speaker has got interesting information to share about the speaker. So we are just going to talk about Jayanth Sekar. He is the senior director in GE and heading the data analytics practices. Good thing about Jayanth today we are going to talk about is he holds around 18 plus years of experience, and he finished his college and then joined GE. From there, his journey is on and on and on. So very few people will see like that, where they just join the company and then grow in the company. So as a fresher, he just joined as a design engineer in the organization. Today it is a proud moment to look at him, where he is just heading the data analytics division as a senior director. And Jayanth is just not just going to talk about the data analytics for us. He's going to just share the journey of how from engineering he transformed, how he sees the opportunity. So which is going to be a great way for us to learn about it, look at that, how we can just do that. Right? That's what we are just going to look at that. So happy to just bring Jayanth over here today to just unravel the information, how we can just learn about data science and what all the opportunities are available, and happy to just talk about various your questions as well, to just check with Jayanth to understand how one can restart the journey in data science. Jayanth, over to you. Really pleasure to bring you over here. And as I was just talking to you before, it was amazing to see your journey as well. So tell us about you, Jayanth, first, before we jumping into that.
Thanks, Manjula. Thanks for having me here. Glad to be a part of this session. So as you pointed out, I've been with GE for close to 18 years now. Spent a good amount of time with the Advanced Technologies organization and the engineering group, where I was there with the group for about 13 years. And over the last 5 years or so, I've been with the data science organization. I'm here to share some of my experiences as well as insights on how I moved from engineering to data science, and also some of my learnings on the way. And that was the end of the session. I'm happy to take questions and answer any relevant and provide any relevant inputs that I might have. I would like to start with my career journey and where I am today. And then I'll cover a few aspects which will help you to think in that direction. So I am Jayanth Sekar, Senior Director Data Science with GE Aerospace. Been with the company for close to 18 years now. I have a background in mechanical engineering with a bachelor's from University of Madras and master's from the University of Cincinnati. I joined GE Aerospace as a fresher in 2005, specifically as an engineer. Spent a good amount of time there, close to 3 years, establishing my fundamentals. Then slowly grew in the organization. By 2011, I was a people leader. From 2011 to 2015 or close to 2018, I had spent leading various teams within the engineering group, where I had an opportunity to develop people leadership skills, build the team, grow the team, and so on. At around 2018 timeframe, I decided to switch my domain to data science, and had the privilege of leading a wide variety of disciplines within the data science group. And then, as recent as 5 months ago, I just moved to a senior director role, where the footprint of the domains that I'm looking at has actually expanded. So what I'll be doing today is to talk about some of the experiences I had during this journey, and also some of the insights which I thought I could share with a broader audience. So I'm sure majority of you would be using Google as a search engine today, right? To either if you're going to buy a product, you would do some research on Google. If you're going to travel during, say, summer vacations approaching, you would want to find a good destination or find a good place to stay. You actually look at Google. And I'm sure a lot of you would have bought products in Amazon, right? And if you notice very carefully, when you, let's say you buy a mobile phone, Amazon prompts saying that if you're going to buy a mobile phone, the mobile phone cover would come along with it. So they make a recommendation to you. Similarly, if you're watching a movie on Netflix, right, and there is a movie which is very similar to the genre that you've watched in the past, the Netflix is going to make a recommendation to you. So this is machine learning, which is actually working in the background, right? So if you're using the internet on a day-to-day basis, you cannot escape from machine learning because these recommendations keep coming to you, right? That's what I wanted to convey through this short Dilbert strip. I just want to share one more critical input through this Dilbert strip as well. So if you notice this, the boss requests the employee to use a specific database, and then eventually he says, can we average them? And the employee says, I can multiply them too. One of the critical takeaways from this is data science cannot exist without the domain and the business understanding, and also the subject matter experts, right? At the end of the day, data is nothing but a bunch of columns of numbers, or for that matter, text and so on. Domain expertise is what brings in value to those numbers, or converts that into meaningful insights. So that is extremely critical for anybody to understand the domain before you actually provide any insights. This actually is a story from my career where the good amount of time that I actually spent in engineering helped me to understand the domain a lot better, and marrying that information to the data science world when we're actually solving problems, it has been immensely beneficial, right? So providing inputs or meaningful insights is relatively easier if you have a stronger domain knowledge. There is one slide which I want you to remember at the end of this presentation. I would say it would be this one, right? And this is a very common Venn diagram that you will actually see in the internet. When you type in data science, this is typically what comes up in the internet, right? Data science is actually an intersection of computer science, which is your green circle, or in other words, the programming skills. The blue circle is maths or stats, and then the orange circle is nothing but the domain expertise. In order to be a good data scientist, it is absolutely important for the person to have a strong knowledge in all these three circles, right? Computer science, good programming skills, understanding the math behind it, as well as understanding the domain for which the problem is being solved. If you're just going to be on the green circle, you would probably become a good software developer. If you're going to be on the blue circle, you'll be a good research scientist. Similarly, on the orange circle, you would be a good domain expert. A combination of all of these is what makes a great data scientist. So what I'll do next is I'll just go a little deeper into the specific competencies that a data science or a data scientist needs. A simple definition of a data scientist, as highlighted here, is the data scientist uses a combination of maths and statistics, algorithms and programs, and similarly business domain knowledge to develop and extract actionable insights from structured or unstructured data, which helps in driving business decisions. So in a nutshell, this is what a data scientist does, and I would like all of you to remember this. I've broadly classified the competencies for data scientists into 4 areas. One is data engineering, second is statistics, third is data science model development, and fourth is algorithm implementation and visualization. So if you look at a data engineering side of it, typically what would be needed is to look at the assessment of the quality of the data, extracting meaningful features from that data that you're seeing, and also summarizing the data, right? They should also have the ability to handle structured data, unstructured data, and so on and so forth. So that's the competency that is needed from a data engineering perspective. if you look at statistics, once you have the data, what are you inferring from that information, right? What inferences can you draw? What kind of distributions that the data hold? There are numerous statistical techniques which are existing. So the data scientist should be in a position to understand those and apply that. The bread and butter of data science is data science model development, where we start off with a very simple model and then go all the way to a complex model if needed, right? And it should also be that the person should be in a position to apply the right model for the right problem. That way, we will extract maximum insights from what we are actually developing. The last one, which is also a very important one, is once you develop a model, imagine you are the consumer. I was just giving an example of Netflix. You don't know what the algorithm is, right, behind the Netflix interface, but it gives you some recommendations. So similarly, if you're going to develop a model, the end user should be able to consume it in a form that he or she wants. And for that to happen, it is important that the data scientist works with the functional owner or the domain expert, or also the technical product manager, or the user interface person, in order to develop that interface so that the outcomes from data science can be consumed and people can take decisions through that. So these are the 4 major competencies that a data scientist is expected to possess. Of course, there are roles of significant breadth, as you can see on the bottom of the page, that I've tried to highlight. What I'll do is, if you look at these 2 circles, I've broken it down by industry, and I've also broken it down by function, just to highlight the opportunities that are existing today, be it in an industry side of it, or be it in a function side of it. Yeah, I'm not going to cover all the circles, but I'll cover a few circles so that I can provide some diverse perspectives or examples on how data science is being applied in these industries and also in certain functions. So if you look at manufacturing side, data science plays a key role in manufacturing. So today, there's a lot of talk about IoT. There are sensors which are attached to the machines, which gives you tons of data as the machine is being operated. There is an opportunity where this data can be converted into meaningful insights, where you can actually look at the health of the machine and predict whether this machine is going to be operational over the next 1 month or so. And if you see some anomalies in the data, then that is an opportunity for us to plan and make sure that a specific component is replaced upfront while the schedule is not being impacted. So that's a classic example on how data science can be used for machine health analytics in the manufacturing space. Healthcare has numerous examples. One such example is, let's say there is a patient who has taken a scan of his or her eye, right? And there are several such images. So the algorithm has the capability to look at these scans and predict whether the patient has any other ailment in his or her body, right? There are scenarios where the scans from the eye can be related to issues in the heart. So that's an area where data science is currently being used extensively. There are numerous applications in the retail world or the fast-moving consumer goods area. A simple example is what should be the right amount of inventory for a product that I need to maintain, right? Are customers actually buying a lot of those products? Are they not buying a lot of the products? That will help me to understand the customer patterns and accordingly stock my inventory. It also helps you to, in the sales and marketing area, where you target specific customers, and that data which is coming from the consumers will help you to build those patterns. The third area could also be, if I'm going to ship something, what is the right amount of goods that I can transport from one point to another? Has it been packaged effectively? There are optimization techniques which will help you to package the right amount of material in a given truck. So there are numerous applications in that area as well. So one area where data science is also used today is in the banking sector. There are opportunities where you look at if there are any fraudulent practices. By looking at the database, you will be able to figure out whether there are any anomalies in the data. There are also products which you can target for specific customers through the data that you're getting from the customers. Like you would have seen scenarios where somebody comes from the bank and asks you, can you buy this product from us? This is going to give you X amount of returns over the next 3 years and so that's an area where data science has been used effectively. So that is on the a few examples on the industry side. There are also examples which come up on the function side. So let me talk about sourcing a little bit. So let's say you're a consumer and you want to buy certain components from a given supplier. How do you know whether the supplier is providing you the right price, right? So data science helps in analyzing what is the right price point for you to for that specific component, and helps you in negotiation. That way you can drive a lot of cost out in the organization. Another area where data science could be applied and is being applied is on the human resources side. You can look at employee patterns, the way they've been engaged. You have a lot of data. This helps you to predict the attrition of the employee workforce, or also see how they are actually engaged, right? That's an area where data science is also beneficial. The third area which I wanted to highlight is on the legal side. Data science is immensely beneficial here, where you can actually compare two documents through text analytics to see whether they are comparable. It helps you to derive meaningful summaries from an elaborate elaborate legal document. There are also cases where some of these court cases predictions could be done by data science based on the data that is being available. So this is one perspective which I wanted to provide, more from an industry standpoint as well as from a function standpoint. So what I'll be covering in this slide is more around some of the applications. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but give you a flavor of what kind of applications are existing on the data science front. So let's talk about cost savings, right? Let's say you're working in an industry and there are multiple shops which are making certain components. And let's say there are two shops, shop A and shop B, which are making the same component, but shop B is more expensive compared to shop A. So data science can actually help in understanding the data from both the shops. If shop A is purchasing raw material from a given vendor versus shop B is purchasing raw material from a different vendor, it helps you to compare prices and helps you to identify what are the leakages, right, from a cost perspective. This will help you to understand cost out opportunities and see if you can play within the budget that is allocated for a given shop. So that's an area where data science is being used tremendously today. On the aerospace side, right, there are several aircrafts which are flying, which have engines attached to them. Data science, we get data day in, day out on from some of these engines. The area where data science plays a significant role is to understand the health of the engine, right? And if you go a little deeper, it will help you to understand what is the health of every component which is there in the engine. And this helps significantly. Let's say that an engine has to come to the service shop very soon. And it helps us to prepare the right amount of inventory. We need to have the right amount of components which are being stocked, and also the right component that is being stocked, which will help us to come up with the right work scope for that engine. And this is an area where data science is creating significant impact in the business. Another area where data science plays a role is in quality control. Let's say I'm making a component and the quality of the component is, I produce a defective component. Is there a way where I can prevent that defective component from being produced? There are examples where image analytics is being used to identify the quality of the component right up front from an inspection standpoint. That way we understand the root cause and prevent any non-conformance from happening. So that's a very good example of how data science is used in the quality control side. And lastly, one other example which I wanted to touch upon is on the again on the image analytics side, where there are several engines which come to the shop right? Servicing shop, and we call it the MRO shops, where the let's say thousands of images of a given component are being produced. There's a person in the shop who looks at these components and provides some kind of a health rank for that given component. Let's say rank 1 is a healthy component, rank 10 is an unhealthy component. But this is a very mundane work, and somebody has to do this day in, day out, and you get there are several components, several thousands components in an aircraft engine, and the person in the shop has to do this day in, day out. So there is an algorithm which helps you to come up with these ranks automatically by looking at the videos, whether the component is healthy or unhealthy and so on, which will help you to classify this automatically, and a significant amount of human time is minimized by doing this. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a perspective, right, on what data science is, what are the typical roles and responsibilities and the competencies of a data scientist. I also spoke about the industrial applications where data science is being used, as well as on the sourcing side, and some real-time examples of how data science is being used. So I just want to capture some of the online resources which are available, and this could be I just want to start from statistics, which is the first thing that I would do, or I did, understanding stats or math, and then go from simpler models, understanding machine learning, and then getting into deep learning and natural language processing. And then I also had an opportunity to look at data visualization and storytelling. So there are a few resources which I've just provided here so that you can take a look at it. Okay. I just want to leave all of you with one thought, right? For all the aspiring data scientists, a goal without a plan is just a wish, right? And in order to become a good data scientist, create a structured learning plan and execute it, right? And if you're doing that, you too can become a data scientist.
So one thing you have just said, that is you pushed a Venn diagram of a 3 circles, saying that the intersection is what we are just looking for. We should have a domain, we should have a good understanding or interest towards the math and research part of it, and plus you should be from the computer programming background. That's where you have just right? So now, and also the one part I liked it is, if you're not having that intersection, you do have a bifurcation of doing the bifurcation of doing the your career in a other way around. If you're a programming person, you can be a developer. You don't need to just come. So that was a good part of it.
Right.
But now the question to you would be, your example where you spent a great amount of time in your domain up to 2015. You have just done about 18 rather 2018 you have just spent a domain, and then you shift that. Because of that, you find data science is easy to navigate. What if somebody comes in the other way around, because they start their career in a year or two and they get bored and they wanted to come back to data science? What's your say on that?
So my take on that is, the person who is actually has interest in data science, they should also at least shortlist the domains that they want to get into. Like I shared a few examples of domains in terms of banking, FMCG, and so on and so forth. The person should shortlist 1 or 2 domains and have a reasonably good understanding of what's happening in that space, right? And they have to do their homework, and it could be through seminars or conferences. That building that domain knowledge is actually key, which will, once that is done, it would be relatively easy for the person to marry the data to the domain and take and provide valuable insights. So understanding the domain is critical, in my opinion.
Okay, so again, the question, since you have just said that, I'm going to ask about it. So what happened when we are just giving a course on data science in the college, and then they are just looking into getting into a data scientist with the tagline? What are they doing if we are just saying these 3 things are necessary?
Correct. So from a college standpoint, I think it is slightly different, I would say. So let's say when you study mechanical engineering, you will have a broad understanding of what mechanical engineering is. The application can be um, a lot more, right? When you look at people studying in the college, they are still open to learn, and they have the flexibility to get into any domain that they want. So that will be that's an open option, right? That is existing. If they still have, let's say, some idea of where they want to be, one option is people who have a lot of clarity in thought when they're studying college, they can do some internship in a specific industry, and just to validate their thought process. Once they do the internship, they'll get to know how the domain is actually being married to the data. So that is still an option for people who are actually coming out from the college.
Thank
Whereas
you
for
so
people
much.
who,
Yeah,
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry, please go
I was
ahead.
just saying, whereas people who want to switch careers, right? My suggestion would be to understand the domain first, right, um, and then get into that domain and build your competency from a data science standpoint.
Thank you, Jayan. So again, just to logically just conclude that question, what we are just muddling around. So even let's assume a fresher, it could be a women on break wanted to start as a fresh data science as a career, or a college grad, or whatever it is. When they wanted to really become a productive resource to do the data modeling and give a decision for business to just give her the pointers for them to look at that, what is the time they need to spend, even though they are just coming to start from a collection of the data, building that and applying a different model and try to create a meaningful solution for the business problems? What is the typical timeline we are talking about?
So I would say it will be a good 8 months timeline. Anywhere between 8 to 10 months is what I would anticipate for that person to go through that entire journey.
Awesome. So there are a lot of questions are coming up, Jayant. I'm just going to pick it up some, and then I'm just going to move on to the other part as well. You will also be able to see that. So this is from Kamlesh, and he is from a commerce background. He would like to build a career in data science. Your thought process on that?
Sure, absolutely. I think you have a great you have a strong math background, and so one of the circles is actually addressed. And if you want to pursue a data science career in a field which is of interest, let's say banking, so you have an edge over the others because you're coming from that background. The only circle that you might have to fill is understanding some of the data science competencies, and if you don't have the programming knowledge, that's something that you can sharpen, which will help you to get into a data science area which is of your interest.
Awesome. Thank you. So, and I'll just pick up the other questions as well before we just jump into our discussion. So, this is a question from Bichi where she would like to know about that. What are the key software skills as an employer they would be looking if they are just getting trained? Is it beyond Python or anything else?
So, it would vary from one company to another in terms of the tech stack that they are actually using. I would suggest from a programming standpoint, both R and Python are good. If you have proficiency in that, that will be a good one. The rest of the softwares or tools could be learned on the job, and it's not going to take a significant time. So coding, in my opinion, is the core area, and if you have mastered that through Python or R, that should be good enough.
Lovely, good. Fine. So let's just move on to the other question from Arnachalam, where how do we differentiate the role? What is data analyst and what is data scientist?
Sure. So from a data analyst side, and when I spoke about some of the competencies from a data scientist standpoint, I highlighted 4 areas, right? If I were to look at data analysts, they are not hardcore on the data science model building and so on. So they provide a lot of business insights, looking at data, converting them into a dashboard, and then extracting some insights from it and providing it to the end user. So you may not necessarily need a lot of modeling expertise when you want to look at a data analyst. Whereas from a data scientist standpoint, the 4 competencies that I highlighted would be extremely important.
Awesome. Thanks for the clarity for just building that. There's other question is just lined up for you, which is being a restarter and changing my domain from IT to data science. Is there an opportunity for employment equally when we are starting a career in data science?
Sure, absolutely. I think Manjula, you can add your perspective as well. So there are a lot of programs where industries have a tie-up for people who are actually restarting their career, and we do look for people who have an experience, who've had past experience, who've taken a break, and consciously look at them, go through the process, and based on the merit, we down select the employees. So that's something which we do. And Manjula, you can
Right,
add to
Jay.
that.
Yeah, just to add to that, especially when corporate comes to us for these kind of a rules, they expect the prior role matching to a certain extent. It could be a more on the engineering where they worked on that, like as you just said about it, right? They just look to just figure it out how their previous experience can become a value add to become a data scientist role, whether it is analyst. Sometimes it starts from analyst as well. It need not be a scientist per se. They'll start from the analyst, and looking at that, if they are from the domain background and if they've just worked on the bigger data sets like even a SQL developer or ETL transformation, what they've just done with the data set, and if they have a domain knowledge, they would be willing to just push them into the returnship model to just explore about it. But again, most of the time when we are bringing, as you rightly said about it, the previous knowledge is going to be the base for them, plus their interest. Both put together, it becomes a good case study for the returnship program to just make them come back to the. Thanks for just sharing that. Some more questions
Thank
are
you.
there. Let's just go to tech first. In digital marketing, is digital marketing is helpful in gaining domain knowledge in retail or FMCG sector?
Um, so I can share my perspective. I don't have a strong background on that side, but digital marketing could be one of the areas which will help you to gain domain knowledge in retail and FMCG sector. But I would also strongly encourage, there are several conferences or seminars which are targeted on the retail or FMCG sector. If you're able to attend those, that will give you a wider perspective of what's happening in that area.
Right. So just to add, Jayanth, pointers just to, for the person who asked about this question, it's really good that you are in digital marketing, so which enables you to just get the data pointer very quickly because you are in that industry. So if, for example, I was just talking to a person where she moved out of banking and she taken the digital marketing exclusively for BFSI segment. Once you just acquire that kind of a knowledge, now you really have a information. As long as, again, go back to Jayanth pointer slide where we were talking about, as long as you're excited about the mathematics and the programming and your domain is just coming to the value add, spending a good time on sharpening your skills, doing a small projects and honing your career into that for a couple of iteration, you should be able to get into the proper career into that part of it. Thanks, Jay. Okay. Is there any other questions we just have? Okay, right. So while we are just waiting for other members, I just wanted to take out our discussion what you have just spoken about it. One of the things you have just said about that, Jayanth, where the person has to just be good in the domain and which you are just seeing about it. But if the person wanted to come back, like they wanted to come back without the domain knowledge, that's where we get stuck. Because first of all, we don't have a good base of what the problem we are going to solve. More than the problem to solve, even if data comes, for example, if somebody, because I'm from telecom, I can say that why is this IMEI number is coming? How is the tap and tap out come? Some jargon I will be able to look at that. And if the billing data comes, how this billing data can be an error, as you just said that. But somebody is not coming from that kind of a domain and throwing the data as a data. There's no information coming out. The data comes as a data, but they are inclined with the research, which is a mathematical modeling, and they are inclined in the programming. How do they just enjoy that part of it?
So one is, so let's say you don't have the domain knowledge, because data science is a very neutral area, right? And it's you provided a bunch of numbers, and I'm just talking about the area where I can apply models and get to some outcomes. where the domain knowledge would be extremely beneficial is if you are extracting meaningful features from the data, right? It's like, let's say I have a scenario where my car is stalled in the highway and it's because of an engine problem. I can't blame my tires for it, right? And the tire has no relationship with my engine, and that's a lack of understanding of the domain. And possibly your features can actually provide that, but today we want to make some meaningful conclusions, and that's where the domain knowledge would actually come into play. Otherwise, we can extract and build models. A good place to start would be there are several areas where the when you look at problems which are provided in the internet, they highlight the problem statement and they also tell you at a high level what is expected. So that way the domain piece goes off. You understand what the problem is and you just have to build the features and so on. But if you don't know what the domain is, then you're going to be just giving features which may not be necessarily meaningful.
Awesome. So that's a good input. So again, typically one more question I just keep getting. I'm going to get validated. I am a developer with the backend, which means I'm good in the backend SQL developer, or I would have done the ETL work, which I've just done a large chunk of data. So just because I did that, will it be right for me to switch my career to the data science?
It would be if the person I'm assuming if the person has done some development, the person would have some coding skills, right? And then which leaves you with the other two circles, which is your math as well as the domain aspect. So if one circle is fulfilled, then the person has to focus on the other two circles and see how they can hone their skills and get into the data science field.
Makes sense. That's the clarity where we have just pushed it. Is there any resource to look at that, the kind of online resources you have just given, but just to know that is the data science is relevant, or just to give that teaser for me, is there any other resource just to look at the assessment kind of a thing?
So, not that I'm aware of anything from an online perspective, but what would be beneficial is once you learn the skills, in order to gauge where you stand from an expertise standpoint, like you should be able to solve problems of varying grades, right? Like you start with a simple problem, see how good you are, maybe and match your results. If you're really good, then move on to the next level. So that will help you to see at the end of applying some of your theory to the problems. It'll put you on a scale. Let's say if you're on a scale from 1 to 10, it'll tell you whether you're 6 or 7 or 8, right? Depending on where you stand. And once you've mastered it, you'll probably be very close to 10, and that's when you're probably ready to go and start looking for roles.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing it. How do we just go about on that? So again, you also spoke about the mentor-mentee was one of the way to just get established on that. Is there established a good community reference where they can just go back and then bounce it? Because connecting to the mentor-mentee is a one way, but is there a data science groups where which is a renowned one, which they can just get a lot of insights through the community, which we can share it to our community?
So typically when you are using a certain software, right, or a development tool, they have certain communities where you can go and post questions and have relevant answers which come out. You could also establish some kind of I think there is some network meet which happens periodically. That's one way to meet people who are aspiring data scientists or people who are already there in the field to get some knowledge. So that's one way. And of course, in an environment, in a corporate, they do have groups, formal mentor-mentee engagement, which helps the person to upskill. So that's what I'm aware of, but nothing specific from a data science mentor-mentee community, I would say.
Perfect. Yeah, of course, we do have a mentor-mentee community, not just for data science, for all the tracks we do have where people connect, and even Women's Day month, we have done one event as well. That is available. But apart from that, thanks for just sharing that. So one more question have just come. I know you have addressed that, but I'm just going to take this as a one last question to just show it to you, just to look at that. Again, if they are coming from the non-IT, first of all, I'm going to rephrase this in a bit. How about people who are coming from non-IT into data science after a career break? So again, let's assume they two scenarios. One, they come from the domain and without the IT background, and they are just looking for coming back without the math variable. Let's put that across. That's where we are just going to pick it up, because many a times we get the women saying that, hey, I was in the engineering field, maybe on the electronic side or electrical side as a quality engineer or a production engineer. Now I have taken the break and I wanted to get into the data science. So let's just address this, then we will add other variables.
Sure. So that's very similar to my story, just that I didn't have a career break. I would simply start from, if the person doesn't have a math background, strengthen my math skills, like the resources that I had provided, and then get into the data science piece, right? So we should probably go in that direction. Of course, if the domain is actually identified. If the domain is not identified, I would probably go in the same order of my preparatory steps that I had highlighted earlier in the presentation.
So I hope we have just given the Padmini answer about it. Padmini, feel free to just reach out to us if you have further information. But eventually, we need to just, at least now we have a picture in our mind what Jayanth has shared. Whether you are from IT or a non-IT, the three Venn circle is going to be the crux of our story. Do we have a domain knowledge? Do we have an interest in programming? Do we have an interest towards mathematical modelings? If all this has been ticked, then we can spend time on learning and building and start doing a smaller projects and then get into the internship and then finally land into the job. That is the one piece. But apart from that, there is one more pointer Jayanth was just talking about. I would like to once more refresh that idea. Like how much time you spend, it's equally important to present that data to the business, saying that this is a piece which is going to make a difference in the organization, which means your soft skill, presentation skills to convince people is also equally important, which he has just shared, that where we need to be part of communicating. Places like a Toastmaster would be the best place to hang around to hone the skill. So if we find these are all exciting, of course data science could be the exciting piece for us to build the career about it, right? Okay, so I know there's a last question. There are LinkedIn, we are just doing it, so working professionals are also watching this, Jan. So I just wanted to take a moment now. Let's just take it a mid-level executives or managers where they have not been into the data science.
Yep.
Right? So they've been a support manager or a development manager or a business analyst, project manager, whatever it is. Now this word data science have just given so much of a marketing. People love that, that's something over there. Right? Let me put it across. So now they wanted to do a career change. I know what you have said holds good for them. Is there any hacks or quick ways where they can do it faster in that curve?
So one of the ways where they can attempt is, if let's say the organization has a data science group, there could be ways where they can get some kind of a reverse mentoring. So people who understand data science over there in the domain, they talk about it and ask relevant questions and understand what's actually happening. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is have some kind of a shadowing, right? If there is a data science people leader and this person is a people leader in a different domain, the person can actually shadow the data science people leader to understand the roles and responsibilities better, attend some other critical meetings with that person, or and also see how decisions are being taken. So that will help that person to accelerate the movement into the data science tool.
Okay, thanks. Thank you so much for
Sure.
giving your valuable time with us and then sharing your insight. But before I say bye to you, wanted to understand, is there any departing your wisdom where our community can learn from you, your inspiring words for our community?
So as I said, one of the key things is if you've decided that you want to pursue a career in data science, it is important to plan for it, right? And unless you have a plan and execute it, it's going to be extremely challenging. So have a structured plan, have some milestones defined so that you can accomplish those milestones. And as I mentioned, it is going to take a good 8 to 10 months for you to navigate through some of those competencies. So spend a good amount of time to understand all of those. And then once you're ready, then you too can actually become a data scientist.
Thank you so much, Jayanth, for just being with us and sharing your insights. It's invaluable for our community members to learn and then take it forward. And all our community members who are watching or who are just going to watch in future, feel free to just connect with us. And we do have a mentor-mentee session as well as the career guidance session to give you the clarity of how we can build your career in a different streams part of it. Thanks for just listening to us and wishing you all the best. And thank you, Jayanth, once again for being with us. It is our pleasure to host you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.